My name is Peter Herwig. Very happy that the video took over for me and mentioned EcoStruxure already. So I'm relieved for the next 2 minutes at least. I'd like to talk to you about what's happening in the industrial automation space. I've been working in automation for 30 years, like many of you, and I've talked to many over the last 24 hours. And it's an industry you can come in, but you're not allowed to leave. After 30 years, I can say it's probably the most exciting time at the moment because we see significant changes with digitization in many, many industries and in many vertical markets. And I'd like to talk about those and also how software is changing the business quite dramatically. Now, when we talk about intuitive industries digitized, obviously, when we talk to many customers and CEOs, they say, digitization is really fundamentally changing my business model. And if I don't engage, I'm going to be off the planet fairly shortly. Now, here you see 64% of the executives believe that their company is going to fail if they don't engage. I haven't met the 36% yet. And maybe it's those who have left their chairs empty. I'm not sure. It's also a massively growing market with IoT in the industry. And whoever believes that this will not affect his business, I think is on the wrong track. Actually, last week I joined an event in Germany where I'm coming from, as you can hear. And they said that 95% of the companies that they are talking to are actually in the process of deploying some digital technologies to move forward. Now, to do that, obviously, one needs to tap into data that's available. And you may have seen this slide yesterday. While in industries we're saying, we're connecting everything since 30, 40, 50 years already, yet we're just using roughly 10% of the data that's there in the plant floor, in the manufacturing space to make decisions. To a large extent, we're making reactive decisions. While if we're tapping into additional data that's there, we can move from reactive to being proactive, to seeing what's going to be happening in the future, not what has happened in the past. The things that happened in the past, obviously, we cannot change, but we can change things if we can predict what's going to happen, or if we can actually prescribe what we need to do that is not going to happen. And then, of course, everything is moving from an on-site to mobile and to remote. We have customers that mobilize their workforce totally digitally with tools so that decisions are made much faster. They are made on the point and they are augmented with information that's there in the additional data. It goes as far as we have customers that run several oil and gas offshore plants totally remotely. For a couple of weeks, and then they send in the maintenance staff because at the end of the day, the screwdriver is very difficult to digitize. Yet maybe we'll find out. I don't know. And it also goes from site to site to larger conglomeration of all your operations. We see many customers that want to compare one factory to the other to see and benchmark who's the best within their fleet of factories to ensure that their productivity goes up. And then obviously with the scale of more data, with the scale of processing power, with the scale of communication technologies that we have, we can just process more data and become much more intelligent and using software tools that are available to make much better decisions. But when we talk about that, and obviously, this is the slide that I need to show. I was forced to. One needs to start off with a simple architecture that is open, that allows others to participate, and that will allow us to bring data up through the edge level, what we've been doing for many times. And I don't believe PLCs and DCS systems are not going to go away in the industrial space. but they're going to be augmented by additional applications, analytics, and software. And you'll be hearing much more about this when we go through some of the examples. And then, of course, all of that needs to be cyber secure. And if you haven't had the chance to look at what we're offering in the Innovation Hub in respect to cyber, I encourage you to go there. It's one of the fastest growing businesses that we have in the group to help our customers to make their OT space cyber secure, or make it cyber securer than the guy who's next door, because it's a continuous race on being safe compared to what's coming up out there in the market. So I'll be talking, of course, about the domain, industry, machine, and plant, and also how they merge together. When talking to many of our customers, they ask me, what's the success factor in digitization? And I think there are 4 of them. It's important that we're bringing together a lot of domain expertise. So you want to talk to our people who know your processes, who know what makes you successful at the end of the day. It's a solid architecture, of course, as I've shown before, and successful platforms. But many times when talking to customers, they're also saying, my goodness, this all sounds extremely complicated. How can we get easily started? And that's something I'll spend some time on today, because it's very important to have the first interaction and not talk about very large platforms that we want to install, but really easy proof of concepts where we can make some money fairly quickly and then roll them out in a variety of sites. I will be talking, of course, significantly about our reverse merge of our software with AVEVA and how we're going to be moving forward in that respect. And obviously also the ecosystem of partners. Open architecture is very important to be successful in that space. And then last but not least, after 30 minutes, I'll give you a glimpse on what I think is going to be coming a couple of years into the future. So I've been wandering around in some of our R&D labs and want to share with you what some of our people are thinking about news that may come, technologies that may come up, just to give you a glimpse on what may happen. Now let's start talking about the domain expertise, architecture, and platform for a second. And I've been in the discussions yesterday. People said, "Oh wow, I didn't know that Schneider Electric is really a full liner in the automation space, from field devices through drives, through of course motion controllers, then Delta systems, SCADA robots, all the way to edge controls, PLCs, DCS systems, hybrid DCS systems, and then of course the advisors that you've been seeing over there, and then the full suite of AVEVA industrial software that we're enabling our customers with. So very solid architecture from that perspective. Deployed in many different sites. The important is that all of that works extremely well together, including the AVEVA software. And the best example you've seen yesterday already from Jean-Pascal is a project that we've done in Egypt with Eni, BP, and Rosneft together. It's a very large deployment in the Mediterranean, offshore and onshore gas deployment. And we've reduced the time to market for our customer from a planned 5 years to 2.3. We've been able to do that because we've had a comprehensive team that was able to do software, that was able to do automation, and that was able to do the electrical side of it, including also fire and gas and RMU units and so forth. So a very complete package. They were so satisfied that this probably $55 million project, we've been able to get phase 2 that has just started, and obviously now the target is not 5 years, as you can imagine. Let's see how we're performing on version or step 2 of the project. Then a very nice water wastewater project that we've done in Mexico. Again, full utilization of the stack, including the AVEVA software, and you've seen that also before. Now, I'd like to spend a little bit more time on easy to get started. It's, I believe, very, very important because many people are confused with what's out there and how much investment they need to do. Now, you've seen about all these advisors that we have brought to market, and I want to zoom in on one of those advisors, is the machine advisor that allows our customers, machine builders, and also end users to go and track all the machinery that they have installed in their plants on the globe. And with that, have current documentation available, have absolute knowledge on what's installed out there and whether it's running. Obviously, once you connect all of those machines, you can also start analyzing what's going on with Monitor. And once you monitor the machines, you have an understanding on what's happening, what potentially will happen in the future, and you can augment your maintenance staff to have those machines run much, much, much better. And we said, you know, before we go out and discuss this with our customers, why don't we deploy this in our factories? Schneider Electric has 200 factories worldwide, and so the most critical customers that you can have are usually in-house. So we've taken that to our factories, and I'll share a video in a second of one of our plants in France that has been selected as one of the 10 best smart manufacturing sites of the World Economic Forum just very recently. And they deploy the Augmented Operator Advisor, and you'll see them talk for themselves better than I.
Whenever you talk about the factory of the future, people wonder whether these factories will still need people, what job these people will do, and how they will do them. Here at our plant in Le Vaudreuil, we already have a pretty good idea. The Augmented Operator is one example. Augmented reality gives operators a superpower of sorts. They can see through machines and know everything that is going on inside them. Before, if a machine broke down, the operator would spend a lot of time troubleshooting. With EcoStruxure Augmented Operator Advisor, the operator scans the affected area of the machine, and digital information is superimposed on a real-world image of the machine. The operator can then access all the necessary information on a tablet, from the location of the malfunction to the condition and technical specs of the part, and even read the user documentation. This reduces the time spent on troubleshooting by 30% to 50%, boosts machine productivity, and makes the operator's work safer, because it limits the need to come into contact with machine parts and electrical panel. Operators can also use augmented reality when running a machine. They can see the equipment status and plan ahead for maintenance, which increases equipment uptime. The part that required the most work was modeling key areas of the process so that they would be recognized when an operator scans a point of interest. The points of interest are indicated at strategic locations and connected to an edge box that stores all data in a local cloud and sends the information to a tablet.
So you've seen implementation in 1 month, 4 weeks. And a couple of the learnings that we had during the process is we didn't have wireless installed in the factory, so we needed to have an easy product that we had what we call IoT boxes that connect the machines to the wireless in the plant so the Augmented Operator Advisor could work with them. So we came up with a simple package for our customers to do that. And one of the fears that we had that some of the more experienced users would be very reluctant to use the new technology. Actually, quite the contrary is true, because if you look how they're using, you know, a great buzzword of augmented reality, they've used a mobile device to do it, and all of them have mobile devices. So the fear of touching the technology was not there at all. Quite the contrary was true. They embraced it because they saw the advantage of having documentation on their hand. Don't need to go to the documentation room to search for all the documentation. Have online data available if there was a maintenance case. I've been able to enter some data of the experienced user or maintenance guy, or take a video posted in the Augmented Operator Advisor. So if somebody in the night shift had a problem, he looked at the video and he knew what to do. So it's very, very simple, but a great tools at a very reasonable cost to deploy and to get started. And what has happened is we see rollouts now in more than 40 of our factories, and they go at a speed that we hadn't anticipated before. And obviously, the same is happening with customers. But to do that and to drive that forward, one needs to have really also an ecosystem of partners out there, be it system integrators or be it distributors that are also able to deploy this technology. Because the more connected installed base that you have, the more opportunity we have for our partners out there. And if we have more partners out there, that also means we have more development engineers or application engineers to deploy this technology and do the respective changes that are required from customer to customers. So with more developers, of course, there are also more applications available. And with more applications, of course, we have additional value to the customer. With every application that comes, we can create more of that value for the customer. And obviously, then he will connect even more assets. And you see where that is going. Once they have deployed some of those advisors, they are hungry for more applications and also software. And that's kind of the magic circle that we see in expanding this technology, and is growing quite rapidly. Now, you've seen the video at the start of, before I started presenting, it's a very good example of the ecosystem where a system integrator with us has worked, and that's why I choose this video, not on a greenfield site, but on a brownfield site. I mean, basically a lot of factories are out there, a lot of installed base is out there. So how can we augment this installed base with new digital technologies? And that's what they have done with our system integrator partner CSS in South Africa. And the same is true in every country by really improving the productivity and not just ripping out everything and replacing everything, but choosing the components that are necessary to be replaced, and then add the digitization to that. In that respect here, AVEVA monitoring and control, and also remote units so they can act respectively remotely to it. Now, obviously, when people start from monitoring and controlling, they are thinking, well, what's going on in the space of industrial software? Because the industrial software these days, paired with IoT, allows us to bring what we say the digital twin to life. And I will share with you what I mean by that when I talk about the industrial and engineering software. Jean-Pascal has talked about the end-to-end cycle of CapEx and OpEx, which is true basically in any industry. Now, in the industrial industry, we're really focusing on continuous process industries and hybrid and batch industries, where usually you start off with a process design in the beginning, where you worry about the materials, you worry about the pressures, you worry about the temperatures, how you bring them together to generate an output out of your plant. And once that's designed, usually people in the past would print out the process flow chart and then start designing the plant, or you wonder why somebody would print out something and then start the next design. Obviously, these interfaces we want to eliminate with a complete AVEVA offering that we have. Then build the facility and then use a 3D model of the factory and kind of cultivate this over the lifetime of the plant. Usually the operational phase is 20, 30, 40 years, while the CapEx phase may only be 2 or 3 years. And we use this digital twin of the real plant and furnish real-time data to it, so you can see what's happening on the shop floor, actually in the office or on the screen. Now, the biggest hurdle of that in the past was, and many of you may appreciate that, is the red pen. For those of you who've done installations, you know, you get the plan, you come to the site, and the first thing you need to do is you need to take out this red pen and you change the plan, because what the design engineer has thought of is actually not constructible. And so we worried in the past that the design was not as constructed, and then obviously time is always short. You hand over, or the plant is handed over to the owner and operator, and all the documentation contains this red pen, or the documentation is old, or the documentation is forgotten. And that's a challenge that we have in the industry, to make sure that everything is as designed, as constructed, as handed over. Now, if all those tools come out of one hand and are ideally connected to each other, we'll be able to have a digital twin that we bring to life. And you can see this over there in the Innovation Hub, where you can see that we've brought a 3D model together with Wonderware inside. All of a sudden, you can see real-time data being deployed. And the idea is, of course, to have a full cycle of that available going forward. So I'll share a couple of screenshots in respect to the assets, be it in a 1D representation to a 2D representation, 3D representation, how a process model and a simulation is going to look like, how they blend into each other. You can see that here, and it goes all the way. I was one too fast here. Doesn't matter. It goes all the way to being able to go in the 3D model, zoom into one asset, and then have an asset performance management software run on the asset and explain to you what's going to happen to that asset in the future. And a short video how one of our customers is going to do that is going to follow in a second, where he will zoom into a pump that you see here red, and then issue work orders and get this done from one of our customers here, of course, in the area.
For every Southern Company asset, vast amounts of information are created. We can harness this information in a way that will increase productivity, reliability, and most importantly, safety, by linking a digital asset to every critical physical asset at a plant. The digital asset captures and connects everything so that information is within reach, literally at your fingertips, in just minutes. Using the model for this Southern Company natural gas plant, we can now demonstrate the power of the digital fleet. Our demonstrator represents a system owner using the Aviva Engage software to find information he needs quickly and efficiently. This information is current and comprised of data from different design and modeling systems, Documentum, and other sources, seamlessly integrated into one point of access. He is looking for P&IDs and vendor manuals for the boiler feed water pump to prepare for an upcoming outage. There are several ways he can locate this information. He can use the intuitive touchscreen navigation to locate the pump in the model. Anyone who has used a touchscreen device will learn to navigate the model within minutes. Or he can use the search feature by using the touchscreen keypad and typing in the tag name of the asset he needs information for. Once he performs the search and selects the asset ID, the system directs him straight to the pump in the model, where he now has access to all available information. Once the pump is highlighted, it's also isolated and can be viewed from all angles. A simple dialog box shows high-level information about the asset and also allows access to associated documents. These documents are accessible directly from the Engage system. They can be viewed and navigated in the touchscreen interface. Our demonstrator will now show that the system also allows a user to isolate and view whole systems by using visual queries. He can now isolate all assets in a particular train in his system and access the information he needs associated.
You get the picture. I'm not going to go through the whole video, but you can get an online presentation over there. You can even go one step further over there where we've simulated a pump with a motor and a drive. And if that pump fails, we can actually online calculate what's the profit impact for the factory if that pump is not working. Now, in a couple of weeks or months from now, you will be able to see that in the 3D model. So you can see that from the layer 1 of EcoStruxure to the layer 2, the DCS system information is available. It will go all the way up to the end-to-end software suite in a 3D representation of the plant, and will actually show you what profit impact you have, what pump has a problem, how you can separate this pump, send a service engineer on site and make this happen and simulate it at the same time to see what the outcome is. So that's a direction we're driving this forward, and with further integration and collaboration between the end-to-end software and the automation equipment, we believe this is the next level of productivity that we can bring to our customers and to our EPCs or end customers in designing and operating these plants. Obviously, high end, but we believe that's the direction the industry is going to go. Now, these are the 4 success factors, again, that I've been talking about before I give you a glimpse into the R&D center, what people are working on with the new digital tools. Again, to summarize, I think domain expertise is very, very important, and it's there with us, and a solid architecture that's also not going to go away. An integration of end-to-end software possibility, but also easy to get started. So some of those need to find the right balance at the right customer. And then, of course, the ecosystem of partners that will help us to deploy at the end user site. Now, when we're talking a future, of course, 3D comes to mind, virtual reality comes to mind. And if you think about a user that sits in front of the control room screens, we were thinking on how could a control room of the future look like. And let me share what can be done here in a short video. So you see no screens anymore. The guy's looking through his VR places. He's going to take out the complete factory. That's why you need a table in the control room of the future. Otherwise, you cannot put the whole plant somewhere. He's going to zoom into the asset, and he can basically walk into the factory, zoom on specific assets. He's going to see pressure and flow and so forth. So quite, and I only have a short glimpse for you. But you can see what's possible from a technological perspective, and where we're trying to drive things. It's much more visible, it's much more touchable, it's much more intuitive. That's why I say intuitive industries, and quite a bit of productivity that we believe customers can get. So I think an exciting journey, and I'll invite you to join our conversation in respect to digital economy and, of course, EcoStruxure, and then also feel free to connect with myself. Happy to chat about what we believe is going on in the industries of the future. Thanks very much.